Hello, and welcome to lesson 13-2. In this lesson, we're going to work on writing numerical expressions. So that's just kind of a fancy way of saying writing your number sentence and writing the different ways that you can show your equations. Let's go ahead and hop into our short video lesson and then our notes and guided practice as usual.
How can you write a numerical expression to record calculations? Let's look at an example. The school auditorium has 546 seats on the main floor and 102 in the balcony. Every seat is filled for all of the variety show performances. Write an expression that shows the calculations you could use to determine how many tickets were sold. How many performances are there? How do you know? There are 4 performances. The performances are listed on the poster. Think about how you would calculate the total number of tickets. Add 546 plus 102 to find the total number of seats. Then multiply by the number of performances, 4. So you need to write a numerical expression that represents find 4 times the sum of 546 and 102. Why do you multiply the sum by 4?
Okay, now here, stop and think about the information that you've been given. We are going to figure out the total number of seats first because there are seats in 2 different areas. Now, those number of seats are per show. So for one show, we're going to have those total seats filled up. Now, since there's going to be 4 shows, they're going to be filled up 4 different times. That's why we're going to multiply by 4.
The number of performances, 4, times the number of tickets sold for each performance, the sum, equals the total number of tickets sold. Use numbers and symbols to write the numerical expression. The sum of 546 and 102 is 546 plus 102. To find 4 times the sum, multiply by 4.
Remember, parentheses show which calculation to do first.
The expression 4 times the quantity 546 plus 102 shows the calculations for the number of tickets sold. Why do you put parentheses around the sum?
Now, the reason that we put parentheses around the sum is we want to find the total of what those seats are put together. So we want to find 4 times the total number of seats, not just 4 times the 546 seats on the main floor. Now, if you had taken out the parentheses, you would have to multiply 4 times 546 and then add 102 to whatever the product of those 2 numbers is. That's not what we want to do to solve this problem. In order for us to solve this problem correctly, first we need to find the total number of seats. So that's why we put those in parentheses. And then after we found the total number of seats, then we want to multiply it by 4 to show that the performance happened 4 times and all of those seats were filled up.
The parentheses show which calculation to do first. You need to add first to find the number of seats sold at each performance. If you multiply 4 by 546 and then add 102, you are finding just the main section tickets sold for all 4 performances, plus the tickets sold in the balcony for 1 performance. Now you know how to write a numerical expression to record calculations.
All right, now let's get into our notes and our guided practice together. Our notes are titled, again, with the same title that we have for our lesson, Write Numerical Expressions. And our focus question for this lesson is going to be, how can you write a numerical expression to record your calculations? So let's take a look at our first example. It says a baker packages 12 cupcakes to a box. Sean orders 5 boxes for his sister's graduation party and 3.5 boxes for the variety show party. write a numerical expression that shows the calculations you could use to find the number of cupcakes that Sean orders. So there's a lot of information here. Let's start with what we know. Now I know there's 12 cupcakes in each box. I know that he wants 5 boxes and another 3.5 boxes of cupcakes. So I'm going to put in a variable to show that my total number of cupcakes, and I'm going to use the letter T for total number of cupcakes. So T is going to be 12 times 5 plus 12 times 3.5. Or I can write it as 12 times the sum of 5 and 3.5. Now, the sum of 5 and 3.5 is 8.5. So 12 times 8.5 will give me 102. If I wanted to distribute it this way, where I multiplied the 12 by each part individually, the 12 times 5 would have been 60, and the 12 times 3.5 would have given me 42, which also, once combined, gives me a total of 102. So you could either write it like this, where it's more compacted and put together, or you could write it out using the distributive property, where you've distributed that 12 into each one of these parentheses, and then found your total. So here we know that Sean orders a total of 102 cupcakes for both events. Our next example says, write a numerical expression showing 55 subtracted from the sum of 234 and 8. So 55 is being taken away after I find the total of 234 plus 8. So I'm going to put the 234 plus 8 in parentheses. And then after I find that number, then I'm going to subtract 55. So 234 plus 8 gave me 242. 242 minus that 55 now gave me 187. So take a look at the wording of the question really carefully so you know what they're asking you. 55 is being subtracted from something. So you're doing this after you do something else. So it's being subtracted from the sum of 234 and 8. So it tells you right away you're going to do this first, and then you're going to subtract the 55 after. Let's take a look at some more examples. Find 8.5 times the difference between 77 and 13. So you're going to do 8.5 times 77 minus 13, or you could do 77 minus 13 in parentheses times 8.5. You can structure it either way. So 77 take away 13 is going to give me 64. And then 64 multiplied times by 8.5, or 8 5/10, is 544. So the way this question is set up is like the other one. It's 8.5 times. So after I find the difference of 75 and 77 and 13, then I'm going to multiply that answer by 8.5. All right, let's look at some more examples. Ronnie's Rentals charges $25 plus $15 per hour to rent a chainsaw. David rented a chainsaw for 5 hours. Write an expression to show how you could calculate the total amount that David paid. So here's what I know. I know they charge $25 extra to the $15 per hour fee. Now, I also know that he wants to rent it for 5 hours. So I'm going to add that 25 to the product of 15 times 5. So $15 per hour times the 5 hours. Then I'm going to add 25 to that. So 15 times 5 is 75. 75 plus 25 gives me 100. So I know that David paid $100 for the chainsaw rental. All right, our next one says, write an expression to show 2/3 multiplied by 42 and then multiply that by 10. Okay, so we have multiple steps here. So we have 2/3 times 42 in parentheses. And then after that, after I find that answer, I'm going to multiply that by 10. So that's why the parentheses go around the 2/3 times 42, because I need to find that product. And then I need to multiply that product times 10. Now, I could do 2/3 times 42 by doing 42 divided into 3 equal parts. That's in our denominator. And then multiply that times 2 so that I have 2 parts. So if I'm going to break it down that way, I'm going to do 42 divided by 3 times 2. 42 divided by 3 is 14. Now that's one group of 3. I need 2 groups of 3, so I'm going to multiply it by 2 to find 2/3. That's going to be 28. So now that I found 2/3 of 42 is equal to 28, I'm going to multiply that by the 10 that was in the original equation. So 28 times 10 is 280. So to find 2/3 of 42, first I divided 42 divided by 3, that gave me 14. Then I multiplied that by 2, which equaled 28. That gave me the 2/3 of 42. And then I multiplied that, the 28 times 10, to get my product of 280. All right, next let's take a look at our guided practice. Number 1 says, why do some numerical expressions contain parentheses? Now, parentheses show us which calculations we need to do first. It helps us to organize our information. Number 2 says, show how to use a property to write an equivalent expression. 9 times 7 plus 44. So the 7 plus 44 is in parentheses. Can you use a different property to write another equivalent expression? Now, what I can do here is what I did in one of our first examples. I can use the distributive property to do the 9 times 7 and then add it to the 9 times 44. I can also then, after that, I can apply it using the commutative property. So another equivalent equation, instead of doing 9 times 7 plus 44, I can do 9 times 44 plus 7. So I switched my add-ins inside the parentheses. So either one of those would give you an equivalent equation, and you would find an equivalent total or product. Number 3 says add 8 and 7 and then multiply by 2. So first I have to do that. So I'm going to put those numbers in parentheses. That's how I know that those need to be done first. So in parentheses, I'm going to put 8 plus 7, and then I'm going to multiply the sum of 8 plus 7 times 2. So the sum of 8 plus 7 was 15, and 15 times 2 gave me 30. For number 4, it said find triple the difference between 44 and 75 hundredths and 22 and 8/10. So I need to find triple the difference. So I need to multiply whatever I get when I subtract 44 and 75 hundredths, and I subtract from it 22 and 8/10. Whatever that answer is, I'm going to multiply by 3. So I'll do 3 times in parentheses 44.75 minus 22.8. Once I subtracted those numbers, I got 21.95 or 21 and 95 hundredths. And then I took that and I multiplied that by 3, and I found the total of 65 and 85 hundredths. For number 5, we have to multiply 4 times 4 times 7/8 and then add 12 to that. So I'm going to put in parentheses 4 times 7/8, and then I'm going to add 12 to the product of that number. So 4 times 7/8 gave me 3.5, and then I added 3.5 to 12, and that gave me 15.5. Now for number 6, it's my last question. It says add 49 to the quotient of 125 and 5. Now remember, the quotient is the answer you get when you divide. So I'm going to add 49 to whatever answer I get after I divide 125 divided by 5. So I'm going to put those two in parentheses, 125 divided by 5. After I find that answer, then I'm going to add 49. So 125 divided by 5 is equal to 25. And then 25 plus 49 is going to equal 74. All right, that takes us to the end of our notes and our guided practice. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.